Support for these programs has been provided by Bank of America Merrill Lynch and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, All Nation Renovation, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional support has been provided by AVR Realty Company, LLC, Capital One Bank, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Douglaston Development, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Consolidated, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Stephen Napolitano, First American Title Insurance Company, Friedman, LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, LLC, Genova, Burns and Giantomasi, Grubb and Ellis, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, Madison Realty Capital, Markham, LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Margolin Weiner and Evans, LLP, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Newmark Knight Frank, SJP Properties, Siami Development, Sterling and Sterling Inc., RAL Companies and Affiliates, LLC, Spandrel Property Services, Urban American.
They call it Newark. It's the largest city in the state of New Jersey. It's the hub of business. There's more educational institutions in Newark than anything. There are 5 universities. There are medical centers. So today, I've brought the guys who know what's happening in Newark to tell us what's happening in this city not far away from Manhattan. My guests today include Mark Burson, chairman of the Fidelco Group, Jonathan Morello, project manager of John's Pizza, Samir Hanini, principal Hanani Group, and last but not least, the consigliere for the city of Newark, for many people, my friend Frank Giantomasi, a partner, a senior partner at Genova, Burns, and Giantomasi. So consigliere, so tell us what's happening in Newark.
Many things are happening, Michael. As you can tell just by your panel today, we have a lot of excitement. Hospitality, entertainment is on the rise in Newark. We have, as you'll talk about today, hotels that are being built in Newark right now, restaurants, after-hours opportunities, and all centering around this hub of the arena and the New Jersey Performing Arts Center.
Now, isn't it true that the 2 men on my arms were born in Newark? You were born in Newark?
I was.
And you were born in Newark.
Yes, sir.
So what has happened over the past, I don't want to tell you your ages, between the past 50 and 60 years in Newark? Why do you go back to develop and become a major owner in Newark?
It's a good question. Years ago, I used to ask myself that, but you know, I was born in Newark, left, moved to the suburbs when I was 7 years old, and wound up coming back for law school, and went to Rutgers Law School, worked Raymond Commerce Building, 1180 Raymond Boulevard, when my first jobs in law.
But you became a major developer, and you and Samir.
Well, what happened really was, it's 20 some odd years ago that the Performing Arts Center was conceived, and a friend and philanthropist par excellence by the name of Ray Chambers made a call, said we're going to build an art center. I need your help. And that kind of is like getting bit by a bug. We started, and it became an idea, and it festered in a very positive way. And I've been involved ever since. Leave here for an executive committee meeting afterwards.
And now, okay, so it was the Arts Center that had started helping Newark. and then in 2007, the opening of the Prudential Center.
Well, you know, you talk about it as a building, and though it helped Newark, but it was more than a building. It was first planning, and it was having a refocus on the city by some of the great conceptual planners in the country. Skidmore played a big role at that time. Other firms like Aaron Krantz, Eckstadt, and Kuhn, and we looked at the city again from the outside.
But Mark, if I could just add, it also provided a communion opportunity for people to feel a sense of pride in Newark and step out and say, hey, I want to help Newark again. So you had philanthropists like Chambers, you had businessmen like Mark Burson, public service came down from its building tops and joined in with the different people, the law firms. People came out of their safety zone and joined together to build an open area for people to come to and entertain.
And it was the first time that corporate New Jersey assembled and says, we're going to get together. And the new words, the watchwords were public-private partnership. And so the focus was there. For me, it took another step because it was the first time I really looked at urban development as a concept, not just intuitively, but had professionals around explaining it and the like, and as began to uncover and think about those things that were kind of intuitive to me, and the infrastructure that existed in Newark and why it should be preserved and the like, I then began not only from the...
I mean, you know, if we look at Newark, you know, you have the airport, which is one of the busiest airports, slowest also, but I mean, in the country, you have access that you really have a train to the city, you know, as opposed to New York City where we don't have it.
Two trains.
Right, two trains, which is really important. And, you know, we have now the PAC Center, we have the Prus Center, you have the universities. And now, what's this company from... the pizza company, who has one of the most successful, great operation in Times Square, coming to Newark. Tell us what you're doing there.
John's Pizzeria, the world's largest pizzeria in the world. And we had an opportunity to come to Newark. New York is a wonderful city, great, but it's hard for businesses to grow lately. When we came to Newark, we were met with open arms, especially with the Booker administration. They helped us a lot in the opportunity and the idea of bringing John's Pizzeria from New York into Newark, New Jersey, and growing with Newark. We're coming into Newark hopefully in July 2011. It should be the world's largest then in Newark instead of New York City because it's going to be larger.
So, I mean, for my viewers who don't know, John's Pizzeria opened up in like 1996 in Times Square, when Times Square was in their initial part of the revitalization, which has taken over 30 years. They went to a place on 44th Street, which ironically was, you know, it was theater district, but it wasn't really great. And you have a seating for what, 450, 500 people?
About 500 people, yes.
So now you're going into Gateway, which many people know. Gateway is a complex that was built how many years ago?
Started in the late 70s. And
you know, it's office building, it's a hotel, and now you're going to go over there within Gateway, which happens to be not far from the arena, a block and a half, 2 blocks away.
Diagonally, right?
Diagonally to the arena. Yeah. And you're building, what, a multi-level?
Yes. 2 levels, should be about 600 seats altogether. It's in an atrium, and we're converting it into a pizzeria. And it's diagonally across the street from Prudential Center, so we'll have, you know, hopefully a lot of business from the Prudential Center as well as the surrounding areas is what we're looking for. Several offices, obviously connected to the Gateway Plaza. So
do you think it'll be open 7 days a week?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, with regard to that, we have you who own a lot of property, who've done a major situation when you brought Rutgers Business School into one of your buildings. Now you're opening up, or one of your relatives is opening up this restaurant called Martini's. So what is Martini's?
Well, it was interesting when your references to what we're doing on the north end of town. 1 Washington Park, where the business school is, 494 Broad Street, the home of Genova Burns and Jen Tomasi.
Make sure you remember, Jen.
Please, it helps.
That area was void of really having restaurant opportunities. So people were either a long walk on a nice day, get in your car, or order in, but the opportunities weren't there. Now, Rutgers has since opened a cafeteria, which has limited access, though it is open limitedly to the outside public. Other than that, we don't have any real place to go for breakfast, lunch, dinner that kind of is in keeping with what the office tenants in the area will be. And we figure that there's as many as 10,000 during a lunch and early evening. We probably have within a few blocks about 10,000 people, that potential adult people, users. And Rutgers, for example, runs as many as 4,000 people through the building a day, their building. So our view was, what's the right formula? Now, Newark is used to so many wonderful ethnic operations in the Ironbound. It's used to a whole type of bar grill operation around the arena. And we welcome with big open arms what John's does and the like coming in. But that's not a 24, you know, a full lunch, breakfast, dinner operation associated with what you want with office and takeout for it. So we're, after exploring and saying, I can't make a mistake, if we're going to, in effect, subsidize to bring the right operation in, we turned and looked and said, you know what, there is an operation that I happened to have had an interest in Millburn, New Jersey, called Martini's. I said, all right, why don't we just duplicate it in Newark? And that's effectively what we're doing now.
And the more restaurants you bring to downtown, the more livable downtown becomes.
And speaking about livable, now you, I think, and in business with Mark, have done some residential loft, rental apartment. Tell us a little bit about that.
We do predominantly historical rehabs in downtown Newark. The beauty of downtown is you have a lot of historical building stock, and that brings a lot of character to the apartments we build. So typically every apartment that we build is unique to itself. You have, high ceilings, exposed brick walls, the really high-end finishes. And we've been able, in the past few years, to build a lot of units and bring people to downtown. The more units you bring to downtown, the more walkable it is, the more attraction it is for more retail, more restaurants. So I think the more restaurants that come to Newark, the more apartments, the more demand for the apartment.
Yeah, but we were saying prior to the show, which I think is really important for my viewers, is that you can rent a beautiful apartment, a loft apartment in one of your buildings or one of the landlords, it doesn't matter, for like $20 per square foot. Right. If I wanted to give a comparison, in Jersey City, it's $40 a square foot. In Manhattan, it's $50 a square foot. Now, look at the transportation. I mean, Newark to Manhattan is, what, 20 minutes by train?
Yep. From my apartment door to the airport, it's a 10-minute ride. $15 taxi ride. To go into the city, this morning when I came into the city, it took me literally half hour from door to here. So, I mean, transportation-wise, Newark has amazing infrastructure.
Now, so here's something, when you're trying to make a place a 24-hour city, resurrect the 24-hour city, you need, and food is very important. Now you are you're renovating tell us a little bit about Cass Gilbert, which is the people who built the Woolworth building and done a variety of things. You're going to be building an Indigo. Right. Now, New York City has an Indigo on the west side, not really the west side, I think it's 27th Street or 28th Street off 7th Avenue. That's Morris Moynihan's, and that hotel has done great in Manhattan.
Their numbers are
So
phenomenal.
what are you going to be doing in Newark?
We're going to be converting, it's a 12-story building, converting it over to 110-key Indigo Hotel. There'll be a restaurant on the first floor, a rooftop restaurant also, and a gym and similar amenities. We're taking all of the historical aspects of the building and bringing it back to life. We're doing full historical restoration, so we're going to bring back the life that it originally had. It's right adjacent to the arena, so we'll be able to pick up a lot of that business, and it will be a great addition to the downtown.
Now here's the question that I posed prior to the show. The only way to build a John's Pizzeria, to build the Indigo, to build certain situations, is that you need some financing. Bank financing is difficult. So how are you doing the Indigo?
Well, in the past few years, and we've done a few buildings with Mark, we've learned how to use the historical tax credits on buildings, since Newark has all this historical buildings, so we're able to bring some financing through historical tax credits. We're also using new market tax credits, and honestly, the city's been very helpful. The city has a couple of programs that we've been able to tap into. The administration's been very helpful in getting the things done. They have a very positive attitude about development in downtown. So combining that all together with the help of some local banks, we've been able to build projects.
Now, how difficult was it for you to get Indigo is a national franchise. Right. It's owned by the Holiday Inn,
right?
Intercontinental. So how did they welcome the idea of coming into Newark?
Well, believe it or not, downtown Newark, there's a huge demand for hotels in downtown Newark. If you look at the existing hotels now, their occupancy rates is above 80 to 90%, where the national average is in the 60s. So there is a huge demand in downtown Newark. So doing market studies and things after they've seen all that, they're very attracted to come to downtown. And they also like the idea. Indigo is more of a boutique style.
Right,
they
it's like it's the Intercontinental concept of the of Starwood's W and the Loft.
So very hip, very hip, trendy.
Yeah, for everything but except for him. You know, yeah. So wait, you got another client, Constellia, who's opening up a courtyard?
We've got a Marriott Courtyard product, which is a joint venture between Marriott, the Devils, and Tucker Development out of Chicago, and that's very close to breaking ground. And again, it's not that that Marriott Courtyard where it's low, spread around type of a building. It's a W-esque. It's an Indigo type of a product. There's going to be a restaurant and commercial utilization, retail on the first floor, and like New York City, you'll come up to a second floor lobby, and then it's that type of a product.
Now that's also near the arena?
That's
we're on the same
part of the VIP parking deck will be attached to the new Marriott, and that's a block. It's on the same block, but you're on the southern corner.
Right.
This is on. I'm sorry, you're on the northern corner, and this will be on the southern corner, right across the street from the arena.
Now, what's happening with regard to, I hear about, some residential development over here, some develop over here. Is there any larger residential development taking place in Newark today? Affordable or in general, anything?
Well, you've got clearly three, besides that which Samer identified on Market Street, that we're doing right now, and that's 191, 216, 222, 4, and 6 Market Street, which are all retrofits and loft space. You have Ron Bate, who's spearheading a redevelopment with Teach for America, a residential. It's kind of across from City Hall, so south of Market.
Yeah, I've had Ron on the show a number of years ago. Ron's made a major commitment.
Commitment. They've got Richard Myers as the architect. So it's a first-class undertaking which will be the beginning of a community in an area that hasn't had new community at all.
Teachers Village combined with charter schools. We're going to build charter schools intertwined in the residential development. It's a very large project.
It's a nice size and a big start, and it's pioneering. It's a pioneering area. Next, as you go north, is our Market Street. Then you have the Performing Arts Center. They have designed and announced designated developer Dranoff out of Philadelphia for its high-rise residential development. We don't have any news about groundbreaking or ribbon cutting. But it's there, and with the retirement of Larry Goldman as the executive officer of the PAC, he's going to become the executive officer of a new subsidiary of the PAC, which will be for real estate development. So I have great hopes that that project, which has been described, will expand.
Now, what about office tenants?
Well, let me finish, because you're missing the big part. As you move north, Rutgers has 500+ units of beds for students that are on their drawing board on university. And at 15 Washington Park, they've got 100+ units for graduate housing in a retrofit of that building. We have planned at 494 about 80 units of new housing would be market rate housing, and across the street for I can't announce publicly without permission a national group that would be about 120 units of low-income housing. So, I mean, that just in terms of there's real effort, and there's another building just north.
Studebaker Lofts.
The
Studebaker Loft.
Loft.
I represent
Yeah.
RPM on that. Edmore Togwell.
How many units
Used
is
to be-
that?
That's 100.
I'm not sure exactly.
No, it's about 120
yeah.
units,
Used to be
and
an
it's
old Studebaker,
in construction.
yeah.
Studebaker car dealership, and what's amazing about that is that they've taken this two-story, very high ceiling building, and they've added another 3 stories, and they've come up right on the river. Views of Manhattan are incredible, and this is a combination of affordable market. And we've got something unique in Jersey called emerging market, which is if you're eligible for a subsidy, even though you can make a salary of about $65,000. And this is a New Jersey opportunity that's designed for teachers, young teachers to buy with a subsidy, nurses, first responders, firemen, police officers. And it's a real effort that's succeeding. And right now we've already got in construction something called Harmony Village, which is 3 phases. And the first phase is about 40 units, and it'll continue like that. They're underway with a combination affordable, emerging market. And so there's some exciting things happening in the residential market.
And one thing we haven't added is the artist community in Newark. Within the past 4 or 5 years, you have now another 20 galleries that have opened up in the downtown, attracting artists from, they've been priced out of New York, they've been priced out of Jersey City. Newark is the next spot for artists, so we're seeing a lot of that activity.
Now, people fail to remember that there are certain major office tenants. I mean, besides your law firm, there are other law firms who have been in Newark. I mean, you got Sills and you have Carter. And you have all the accounting firms over there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so, and Prudential still has a commitment to downtown Newark, not as much as they had in the past. Do you see, are there incentives for office tenants to come to Newark?
Well, I think
Financial incentives.
financial incentives. I think it's. I'm not sure there's some direct state incentives for hirings and new job in
Right, because
urban
I
centers.
know there was in I think in Jersey City and Hoboken there's a zone where you can get certain really great tax credits.
There are tax credits that are available if you're relocating jobs from out of state, and if you bring them into Newark, they're eligible, and you as an employer are eligible to reap the benefits. And we've had some of that relocation occur. In the last 3 years when the market collapsed, I would say that there's been a slowdown of that, but I'm seeing a little traction start again. I'm starting to see some things happening.
I think there's 2 things. You have, the greatest of all the benefits would be the reference to the Urban Hub Transit Tax Credit, which is still being refined to make it more user-friendly and to fit more opportunities for office-type tenants. But you yourself hit on the real incentive, and that's Newark's infrastructure. And that today, with escalating fuel costs, with costs of living, the commute being issues for people, we're seeing that people like a Genova Burns, that firm moved from Livingston to Newark, and not having lost any employee in that move, and employees feeling a new excitement, being able to walk outside and feel different than walking to in a parking lot. Instead of having your office in the suburban office surrounded by cars and nowhere to go, all of a sudden there are opportunities. And of course, on the north end of town with the museum, Historic Society, and other, university, there's a different kind of action. So we're seeing it, for example, Audible.com, that was one of our first major tenants, has 2 floors of One Washington Park.
Which is an Amazon company.
Which is now owned fully by Amazon.com, is been very exciting with their expansion. It's a youthfulness. Their internal designs are different.
Fabulous,
They
fabulous
don't put
place.
ceiling tiles in. They open up the ceilings.
Yeah.
They like concrete floors. It's a different kind of operation, and they're going on, I'd say probably, I don't know if it's 24/7, but probably an 18/7 kind of operation. So those people working there, they're commuting. They're even coming to work with small pets. So I mean, this is a different environment, and that's starting to happen in Newark.
You know, as an aside, you know, in the mid-90s, when New York City, Lower Manhattan was really in major trouble, and Newark probably has this situation that you do have certain vacant buildings, the Giuliani administration put together something called the 421G. The 421G was a tax credit which gave the landlord a 15-year full abatement on real estate taxes if you converted this office building, which wasn't going to be really good, into a residential tower.
Well, the city of Newark doesn't have the full-blown tax opportunities that a New York City has. It's a whole different tax structure in New Jersey. But Newark is working very well. Stephen Pryor, the Economic Development Deputy Mayor, is working well with the state of New Jersey, with the EDA, and they weave together a financing stack of ERG, of RAB, or of just pilots that helps.
You're the consigliere of the Newark. I think if you could really bring up this 421G, which really, you take a building like a Verizon building or an IDT building, and you do the situation, because this is exactly what happened. People like Joe Moynihan and Rockrose at that time bought buildings for $50 a foot. They put the money into renovating because the 15 years was such a great abatement, and it really resurrected Lower Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, I think the opportunities, putting any residential, for example, on the North End like we're doing, is still a pioneering event. And I think people, you said it earlier, referencing the university community that's in Newark. That's one of the great saviors. It wasn't just the airport. It wasn't just the rail.
I think, to talk about Newark in 27 minutes, it's inappropriate. So hopefully you'll be back in a couple of months. Maybe you'll even get the mayor this time to join you and to tell us what's happening in the vibrant city of Newark. I'd like to thank Mark Burson, Jonathan Morello, Samir Hanini, and last but not least, the consigliere, Frank Giacomoso, for being here. See you next week.
Support for these programs has been provided by Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, All Nation Renovation, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's window company, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional support has been provided by AVR Realty Company, LLC, Capital One Bank, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Douglaston Development, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Consolidated, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Stephen Napolitano, First American Title Insurance Company, Friedman, LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, LLC, Genova, Burns and Gian Tomasi, Grubb and Ellis, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, Madison Realty Capital, Markham, LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Margolin Weiner and Evans, LLP, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Newmark Knight Frank, SJP Properties, Siami Development, Sterling & Sterling Inc., RAL Companies and Affiliates, LLC, Spandrel Property Services, Urban American.